This is the Jayhawker Podcast.
And we are presented, as always, by the University of Kansas Health System, by Black & Veatch, and by the next generation 10G network, only from Xfinity. The future starts now. All right, so I'm very pleased to welcome our next guest on the Jayhawker Podcast to the show. This is, I'm going to go ahead and say, an old friend of mine, at least a person that I've gotten a chance to know ever since he was playing basketball at the University of Kansas. And through his career as a professional, we did some work together. And now he's in the Kansas City area doing some really cool things with youth basketball as well. And he's got a connection to a big game that the Jayhawks have coming up this week at Iowa State. Those of you that are big Kansas fans will remember Elijah Johnson going for a career-high 39 points in an overtime thriller at Iowa State, which also just so happened to be the game that got Bill Self win number 500 in his college basketball coaching career. So with no further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show Elijah Johnson, former Kansas Jayhawk. Elijah, man, it's good to see your face. It's good to get a chance to catch up with you again. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on, and I appreciate you reaching out. How everything been?
It's been good, man. And we were talking before we started this. I think the last time you and I got together for a couple pops, it was probably 2000-ish, 2020. I mean, it was around the pandemic time, I think. So fill me in, man. What you been up to over the last 3 or 4 years?
In the gym. That ain't gonna change. In the gym, with the fam, just enjoying life, man. Sticking with the rules.
Yeah. So in the gym, we're going to get to that in a second, but you said enjoying life with the fam. For the Jayhawk fans out there, tell us about your family a little bit. What's going on there?
Just trying to be a good dad. Like I say, just following the rules, just being a good dad, being a good husband, trying to support, have fun, and just live life. Right now, we got a 2-year-old, Kendricks, and that's Kendricks with an X. Sometimes that's confusing, but we have a 2-year-old, and he's just full of life. So just watching him learn things and relearning it with him it's just been really fun. So, yeah.
So your wife, Natalie Knight Johnson, who is the reason that I got a chance to get to know you a little bit while you were in college, is because I was doing the play-by-play for the Kansas women's basketball team, and you guys got together at that point in time. How long have you guys been together now? It's been, I mean, you guys were playing over 10 years ago. So how long have you guys been together now?
Well, we met in 2011, and we've been together since then. So it is 2025. We have about 14 years we going on.
And I was just trying to do some research because I don't even know how to look something like this up. You got to be the all-time leading scoring couple in Kansas basketball history, because I couldn't think of anybody else that would even qualify. But between the two of you, we're talking 2,000 points at Kansas. I think Nat had just over 1,000, and you were right under 1,000. So you put it together, you guys were at 2,000 points scoring. You're like the first couple of Kansas basketball. You ever think of it like that?
I try not to. We just doing what we were doing, but I do think it's a pretty cool thing. We're pretty low key, but when we pop out, I think people are still surprised that we're still kind of riding this wave, and it's not a temporary thing, and we actually have a deep interest in each other. So that's been the fun part. But yeah, that's my soulmate.
Dude, it's been really cool to see, and I was such a fan of Natalie, the person, when she was playing at KU. She was a all-conference player, an academic all-Big 12, comes from a great family too. And seeing you guys build what you talked about, the gym. So let's talk about that for a second before we get into some KU basketball talk. Tell me about the gym. I know the name of it, but for our audience that doesn't know, tell us what it's called and what you guys have been doing.
So the name of the gym and business is called Just 4215, JUST 4215, which would be Natalie's jersey number and my jersey number. We train kids, we run a league, we have some teams, we play competitive, we travel, we do a little bit of everything with that. My wife also just took the head job at Blue Valley High School, and that's been really big for her. So I'm assisting her there. It's been really fun to have her be in charge and me to have to, assist and play a role I've never really played before when we duo. But it's been really fun just keeping up with the gym and also branching off into that Blue Valley School District.
So I think the last time you and I got together, you guys were just starting the gym up. Tell
hmm
me about what maybe has been the best part of the gig. What's been the hardest part, or maybe something that you didn't anticipate when you got into this line of work?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's a few things. Like one, I think is aging me. I care a lot, and sometimes I think that that's my downfall. And I know things before they happen. Sometimes just from the people I've been around, and playing for people like Coach Self and training with somebody like John Lucas my whole life. I know things about the game. So sometimes just being a little bit too attached, I think is growing on me. It's making me older. So I definitely understand why people like Coach K or Roy or those people think about retiring. It's just it can be a lot on you when you care about these kids and you passing them through. And I sound like that at 34,
Mm,
so that's
mm,
probably been the best part about it for me. And just being able to be graceful about it and knowing that people have different routes and just trying to be not necessarily a speed bump in their road, but trying to help them, per se. So it's a blessing, man. I enjoy every day I wake up. I'm itching to get to the gym. I can't wait to get to the gym today. So I
yeah.
love it. I love
You
it,
know, it's
man.
fun. It's funny coaching. My only experience with coaching has been like coaching my kids when they were playing biddy ball and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
I found myself getting attached to all the kids on the team. You develop a
Mhm.
personal relationship
Mhm.
with them, and you feel like you have a chance to help them uh, with life through
Mhm.
through a sport that you love. One thing I notice about just even being a parent is your kids are going to make mistakes that you made, and you want to try to protect them. You want to try to tell them about all the, at least I do. I want to tell them about all the mistakes I made so that they don't make them themselves, but they're still going to do it, right? Like
Mhm.
sometimes they got to go experience things on their own. Is that a challenge for you when it comes to coaching these kids?
Not necessarily because I have a different hats that I can wear. So there's a part of me that it's certain words that my kids know I never say, like don't, can't, not. Certain things that I just don't use towards them. So shooting they open shots, if they shoot it off the side of the backboard, I'm the first one to tell them it's okay. I'm gonna tell them
Mm.
they got it down and back, because we still make them run for that. But I encourage them to try. So I give them space to make silly mistakes and learn from it. But then there's another part of the game where Nat and I were just like, hey, we called a play and this is exactly what we wanted. It's not negotiable. Do it or you got to come out. And it's more stern and it's definitely some Bonnie slash Bill in there, if I'm being
Uh-huh.
honest. And a lot of the parents know that and understand it is bigger than basketball, but we don't just tightrope them and make them feel like they have to do what we want them to do the entire game. So watching them bump their heads and make mistakes is it's a lot easier with that approach. So, like I said, I enjoy it.
So for those that are watching and don't recognize that reference, Bonnie slash Bill, Bonnie Henriksen was the coach that Natalie played for during her time at Kansas. She just retired at the end of her basketball career this past offseason. Then, of course, everybody knows Bill Self as well, who you played for. I'm kind of curious, like your coaching styles, you and Nat, because Nat she always
Oh
struck
man,
me as a very
now we
reserved.
talking. Now
Yeah.
we talking. Now we talking. That is probably the most interesting thing happening in my life right now. Because when we coach at 4215, it started with us training and just trying to give kids an edge to feel more comfortable. And it turned into teams, and I found my style and what I like, and I learned that I have a lot of coach self in me, a lot of coach self in me, and I understand why he's the way he is. And even teammates that like Mario Little, Tyshawn, different people that played with us, they've watched me coach my team, and they all come at me like, "Hey, you don't think you a little too tough on them?" And I'm like, "No, this is how we run our program," and the boys know. And when they see, or the girls know, and when they see that the kids at 4215 don't fold, don't crack, don't break, no matter what, I think that's a more impressive thing, because at one time I had to remind Mario, I'm like, dude, we were losing, right? I know we look good, but he's like, yeah, but you playing two ages up. So we try to push the kids to believe in themselves, and that's what my style has been, alongside Nat, because there has never been a head assistant type of approach. It's been, kind of even, all the
Hmm.
way around. But now that she's at Blue Valley, it's been really interesting to see her have to step up without me stepping up with her, and watching what she prefers. And, sometimes we disagree, but I'm the assistant, so I have to sit back and encourage what she's wanting to do. And I'm learning about that, man. And I'm having fun watching her branch off and learn about what she prefers too, without my say so, being so heavy in it. So this coaching thing, it's a new chapter in basketball that we didn't even know would exist. We thought it would just be, on the court, but on the sideline is so fun, man. And if you just, have the right mindset and approach about it, have the right people around. So like I said, we enjoy it. I think that my coaching style is a lot more strict at times, but I think that my wife is definitely not an easy coach to just, please, you got to come with it when you playing for her too, because she has some standards, and she likes to win and she likes to compete. So
So Natalie always kind of struck. I got to know her parents pretty well when she was playing. Her pops
mm,
played college basketball, but Natalie's mom always struck me as kind of a bubbly, talkative person. And Natalie's dad was always the guy that just sat there like this during the game and didn't have a
hmm
word to say. He
hmm
was a man of few words. Nat always struck me more like her dad in terms of she just was kind of all about the business, didn't get caught up in a lot of talk and things like that.
hmm
Um, do you see that in her as a coach? Like, what's her
nah,
personality like when she's actually on the court?
nah. So I would say, in all honesty, I think that my wife was just a scholar, and she was what we want all of our kids to be when she
Yeah.
came through her time. She knew to shut up when she didn't need to speak. She knew to do her job. She knew to not complain. She knew to be on time. So she was just, really superb when it came to that stuff at that age. But as she got older and she started to work for herself, she started to come into her own a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think she's the same person she was when she went through KU. I think that she has a much heavier opinion. She's not obnoxious. She's still not very loud, but she talks a lot more. She'll start a conversation, and that's
Mm.
something that, if you know her, that's not something
Yeah.
that she would typically do. Just
Yeah.
like you say, she was a lot like her dad. um, but I think that her mom's side definitely came out as the years went on. I'd like to think that I encouraged that, but she definitely has a heavy opinion, and when she wants something done her way, she wants it done her way. So that's I'm learning about my wife in a different, chapter of life, and it has to do with basketball. I just think it's just so dope, man. But yeah,
Yeah.
she's definitely a lot like her dad. She's not the loudest, but her body language, and if you play for her, her voice, and when you hear it. Well, those girls at 4215, they know. We lost the game by 2 points. The other day we were up by double digits. And, from what I understand, the girls told me that, Coach Nat, she wasn't really happy with us. And, so they feel it. It's there.
You scroll, tap, swipe. text, call, and do a lot more on your phone. None of us can fathom life without all the world's knowledge in our pocket. We use phones for just about everything. But when it comes to doing the bigger things, like streaming, gaming, and working, you shouldn't be limited to just your phone screen or mobile plan. You see, millions of Americans don't have home internet. They are forced to do everything on their phone or through their mobile service via a hotspot. Or they go to public spaces and use unsecure Wi-Fi, which can be problematic when dealing with personal or sensitive information. You deserve reliable home internet that fits your life and your budget. And right now, Internet Essentials Plus from Xfinity is free through the Affordable Connectivity Program. Get unlimited data and equipment included with no annual contract. Go to xfinity.com/free to see if you qualify. Restrictions apply. After program participation ends, Comcast standard charges, taxes, and fees apply. May not be combined with other offers.
I had this patient. His cancer treatment had him in the hospital for a while. One day, he was telling me about his grandson and how a big night was coming up for him. So we arranged to make it a big night for my patient too. I sometimes wonder if I'm doing all I can. Then I help make a moment like this possible, and I know I am.
It's time now for the call of the game. Brought to you by the Hilton President Hotel, the only hotel in the Power and Light District, just steps from T-Mobile Center. Over 200 rooms and suites to choose from. Call 816-221-9490 or online at www.presidentkansascity.hilton.com.
Jayhawks trying to even the all-time series at 5 games apiece. Zeke Mayo trying to get around his man Skillings. Drives inside, hangs, fires. Somehow, some way, he banks it home. What an unbelievable circus shot for Zeke Mayo.
Well, I got an old saying that my dad taught me, which is still waters run deep. You know, sometimes people that don't quite talk as much, when they do talk, everybody sits up a little straighter and listens. You know, I always felt that way about Nat. You said something about yourself as a coach. You said you got a lot of Bill Self in you. Now, I'm curious if today's Elijah Johnson, we're talking to the freshman at Kansas, Elijah Johnson, and you were to tell him, hey, someday you're going to have a lot of this guy in you, what would he have said?
It would have made sense to me. I would have believed it because one thing about coaches, I don't know if and he's been through a lot of eras during his time, and my era was a small one because I only had him 1 year. But I never really clashed with him. I clashed with him when I wasn't important to the team or program. You know, and he gave me grace, and Coach T stuck his neck out for me at times he didn't have to, and you know, but I got over those humps. But when it was senior year, like, I think Coach Self always knew that I was not a dumb player. You know, he knew that I could jump and I could make a shot, but I think he always knew that I understood what he was trying to do. And I wanted to perfect his plan, you know. So I would believe it. I would say, hey, that make a lot of sense. Now you just need to get out of your own way. That's also something I would have told myself. You need to get out of your own way and buy into what he's saying a little bit more because it means more than you think it means right now. You know, but I see a lot of that in him. I mean, in me from day one, my freshman year.
You know, I'm curious about that because one of the things that I have always loved about watching Bill Self basketball teams is players who it didn't come to them easy right away, right? Like they weren't necessarily the star of the team or even a big factor in the team early in their career, but by the time they were a senior, you're talking about some great players. I think about Frank Mason and Devontae Graham and Ochai Agbaji, guys that as they grew, as their time went on, all of a sudden by the end of their career, they all that stuff that you just mentioned kind of came to the forefront. And I wonder how much that's going to change in today's college basketball where everybody's transferring every year. You know, like you get the chance to ever actually develop the way that players have for all these years under Bill Self.
I mean, I think that's a preference thing. I think if coach wants that to live on, I think he can definitely put somebody in the oven and say, hey, no, this is a kid that we have an understanding that he's not transferring out and we're not this, that, and the third, and he's gonna, sit in the oven until we need him, then I think it can exist. But it's 2025 and I hate to say it, but I mean I don't know, but it seemed like money is just taking over the entire scenario. So things that you would want to say, you have to factor in money with it. And
Hmm.
that changes everything. It changes everything. You can't expect a kid to sit still and wait right now because they know they might not go to the NBA. Now people are more realistic to if they really are going to the league or not. It's people have to be real with themselves more. So it would be hard to keep that going. I think that we, meaning Elijah, Tyshawn's, uh, I don't want to say Sharon's because he could have left way before he did. But those people that stayed through the pro, Frank Mason's, Devontae, I think that era, until they get control of this money, I think that era could be over or at least paused right now, just because
Hmm.
it's no promise, man. It's no promise. I've seen kids transfer to 3 or 4 different schools before the season even start. In one
Yeah.
year, like before March till October, they talked about 4 different commitments or 3 different commitments. And I just think that that's just too much. It should be some kind of stance to it. Like you should be able to transfer maybe once, or something
Hmm.
like that. And if you want to get after your schoolwork earlier in your high school years or whatever, JUCO routes and different things like that, where you have an extra year, then I think you should be able to use that extra year to go make more money if somebody feels like they want a 25-year-old kid. And I think that should be fair game. But right now it's just all over the place, which makes sense because it's just starting. But yeah, I like to think that we're the end of that era, and it's a new day.
Yeah. Do you find yourself in a position where you're advising a lot of high school kids that are in this situation, trying to make decisions on where they're going to go, and what's that experience like?
Man, you're asking some great questions, but it's only for a certain audience that really want to
Okay.
hear it. But to me, and this is to me, I'm working with kids that I love. They come in the gym. I'm with these kids 6+ hours a week because we have multiple days that they come in. So these kids all want to go where? To KU. Okay, that's where they all want to go. And they all think that that's going to happen. And I wish that it could happen for everybody, but I'm trying to explain to so many people that the climate right now is so unsettled because of all of the COVID backlash and all of the transfer portal opening up and all of the NIL things that's happening. And I'm telling people how these scholarships are kind of disappearing. I
Hmm.
coached for a small period of time at an NAIA, and they had a JV team at the collegiate level, a junior varsity team. And this was some years ago. And you would think that that's a full scholarship, but it was something that you were kind of paying for. So I'm telling these kids, I say, hey, you can get into school to play. There's a lot of slots out there, but as far as those elite slots, there's not many. If you're not one of the top 30 kids in the country, meaning that you have to clearly be the best kid in your state area and you win every game and you are dominant and everybody knows it. I said right now the climate is just very, 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 very thick. It's hard to get through. And the kids, they don't understand it until it's too late. And
Mm.
that's the part that I feel I'm happy didn't happen during my time. I'm happy that when I was trying to go to KU, that they had to really consider us and the top 30 players or the top 50 players versus the top 10 players and 5 transfer kids. And, now me at 18, I'm competing with a 25-year-old
Mm.
that's deciding, hey, I don't want to go to Florida my last year. I want to go to KU. It's a different time,
Mhm.
and I try to explain it to people that's willing to listen, but so many people think they understand it, and they think, oh well, I'll reclass, and the NIL money's on the table and this will happen. And I'm just like, man, just enjoy your journey, because if
Mm.
only you knew you're going to get there and your kid's still going to be competing against kids 3 years older than him, and there's not going to
Mm.
be 12 scholarships like y'all think. It's going to be like three, maybe. It's gonna be, thick to get through. But I try to be encouraging versus discouraging. Man, conversations like that to the kids that want to get there, you don't know what that does to them. Does it light a fire or does it pour water on their fire? And that's what I don't want to do. But when you ask those questions, I'm not gonna lie. And that's what I believe is happening. I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
Somebody could tell me, Elijah, you don't know what you're talking about. And I would listen to everything they had to say and go to the drawing board. But right now it's not 2009, where if you made the McDonald's game, you're definitely getting a Duke, Carolina, KU, Kentucky, those looks. Now it's, where the money at? and
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
money at? I don't
And
know.
and it might be the kind of thing when we look at Zeke Mayo right now. He went to another smaller school,
Mhm,
smaller conference school.
mhm,
He paid his dues there, not paid his dues, but he played. He produced there.
mhm.
Then as a senior, he's able to come and play at Kansas. So it is a different it's a totally different
But see,
landscape.
his situation is like, those type of situations should be allowed. Like, that is fire what he is doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is like, I don't see much wrong with it, unless somebody can
No.
pull something up and say, no, well, this, I don't see much wrong with it. It's the other, things that complicate it, when it's other
Mhm.
players. And, I won't speak on certain situations, but, and not at KU, but just across the board. I just
Mhm.
tell these high schoolers now that it's a lot different. You better be able to 360 through the legs and and dunk it, before it's too late. So,
Yeah. See, that's why I just made sure I couldn't do any of those things, so I didn't have to worry about it. Simplified my life by not being good. But I like the fact that you're being honest with kids though, because like even for me, if I go talk to university kids about wanting to become a sports broadcaster someday, I want to inspire them to believe that they can do what they set their mind to. But I also want to be real with them that it's not going to be easy, right? That you're facing some long odds. There's
oh
not that
yeah,
many jobs, and
oh yeah.
you got to be real with people, but you can do it while still telling them that, hey, things are possible, like you said earlier.
Hmm.
We're visiting with Elijah Johnson, and this is great. Just a couple more questions about your current coaching situation, and then I want to talk a little bit about KU Iowa State, because they got a big game coming up on Wednesday night. So you said when Nat's coaching Blue Valley, correct?
Yes.
Um, are you an official assistant? Like, are you on the bench with her? Or are you up in the stands watching? What's your role in that situation?
I'm the guy sitting next to her that gets up with the small piece of paper with a couple notes on it. I
Yeah.
tell her what I think we're struggling on defense, what I think we could use
Uh-huh.
on offense, and the key, that's me. And I stand outside the huddle and I try to cheer people on. I try to be more positive than negative in the games. I try. So
Yeah.
that's my role. I'm that guy.
See, I find it fascinating because, like, I feel like I married my soulmate. My wife and I have a great relationship. She's a physical therapist, and we had to come to an agreement that if I have an injury, I'm not going to have her treat me, because the husband wife dynamic gets involved with the pay, and then we get into
Oh,
fights and things like that. And
oh man.
if I look at my wife and I have a different thought of what she wants to do with my knee or whatever it is,
Hmm.
I see the look on her face, like,
Uh-huh.
and I shut it down. And I'm curious, has there ever been a time during a game where she wants to run a play and you want to run a different play or switch the
Hmm. A
defense up,
lot. That
and you
happens a lot. It
so
happens a
how do you
lot.
handle that? How do you handle that situation?
It happens a lot. To be honest, I think you could ask our players and they could answer that more than better than
Okay.
anybody. But um everybody in our program parents, players, everybody knows how I am, how aggressive I am,
Yeah.
but they also know how much I'm willing to listen. So I put my opinion out there, but when Nat wants to shut it down and she wants to do something else, we roll with it,
Okay.
but it's never been, us going back and forth and arguing. We've never even had to have like a let's step to the side and talk about it. It's just kind of
Okay.
like an understanding. That's what makes it, you know, like somebody asked a kid on our team that, and she was just saying that's what makes it like they both the head coaches. It's just like Coach Nat and Coach Elijah, and it's hard to explain, but the
Yeah.
kids know, what to go off of, and at times I'll be honest. There's been a time or two where we've confused kids because I'll say, "Hey, let's go red," and then Nat'll say, "Let's go yellow." 20 seconds later, and then I have
Hmm.
half of them saying, "Well, Coach Elijah said," but that doesn't happen much. I'll say,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
happened maybe less than 10 times, and we've coached hundreds of games,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
it's
Well,
fun.
that's great. I got to come to a game now. Now I'm fired up. I need to. I'm gonna come watch a game, and that's gonna be a trip. I love it. We're visiting with Elijah Johnson. All right. So the thing that gave me the inspiration to call you this time around to come on the show was I'm looking at the KU schedule, and all of a sudden they got this game, number 2 in the country, Iowa
Mhm.
State versus number 9 in the country, the University of Kansas. I'm going to give out some numbers in a minute about Bill Self's record against top 5 teams when his teams have played against top 5 teams. It's incredible. But it made me think to my favorite memories of watching KU basketball games at Hilton Coliseum, one of the toughest places to play, one of the best environments in college basketball. And that was the game where I mentioned it earlier on the show. Elijah Johnson goes for a career high 39 points. I'm
Mhm.
trying to remember. I had it looked up how many points you had over the last like 5 minutes of the game was something crazy because it was a big comeback. And then you forced overtime and you guys went off in overtime. You had the
Mhm.
dunk at the end of the game that got everybody riled up too and all that. But that was win number 500 for Bill Self as well. And
Yeah.
I saw the quote from you after the game. You said, because somebody asked, "Hey, how did you have such a great game?" And you said, "I blacked out at one point."
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
much? How much do you remember of that day at Hilton Coliseum?
Uh, well, I talked about it before, about how my knee was bothering me that day, and I didn't feel like we weren't gonna win or anything, but something I learned from Sharon is like certain games that Coach Self kind of cares more about that we might not think about. So on
Mm.
his schedule, he got it circled, but Jayhawk Nation and nobody else, none of us got this game circled, but he got it circled. And I started to kind of realize what those games were, and Iowa State was one of those games, at least during my time. And they were always consistent, and just, a team that we couldn't go there and just think we were going to win, but we wouldn't think about that until we got there. And we're dealing with the Niangs and all of these guys, and having that headache of them turning it up and making 2 3 threes in a row when they were up by 2 on accident already, just different things that they could
Mhm.
do. So I knew it was time to focus, and I was there, but my knee was bothering me, and Coach wanted to shoot around when we got to Ames, and that was intense. And he, of all people, wanted to go after me. So we didn't really clash, but we kind of went back and not really back and forth because I don't think I said much to him, but he kind of came after me. Got back to the hotel, and I remember just not really feeling great, my knee. We get back to the gym. I'm like, let's wipe these dudes, let's wash them and get out of here. Not only that, the year before, one of the fans spit in my face as I was walking into the tunnel behind Tyshawn and T Rob. And I remember that really kind of getting under my skin and bothering me. And that was my junior year, the year they beat us, because after that happened, they beat us and stormed the floor.
Mm.
Okay. So they
You
spit in
don't
my
forget that,
face.
huh?
Yeah, they spit in my face and then beat us and then storm the floor. The referee gets hurt. I remember the whole thing. We couldn't even go our right way to the locker room. We went out the other way to get to our locker room. And this is the next time I'm there. Not only that, I'm not feeling great, and Coach Self is feeling how he's feeling, and he's coming after me.
Yeah, he
And
got teed
yeah,
up like 3 minutes into the game too. Like he was turned up.
yeah, I think he wanted to let us know that like we had to play, and I got all of that, so none of that stuff surprised me. I wasn't surprised, but I didn't think about, okay, Elijah, you got Ben over there. He been here, but this is his first year on the floor. Like
Hmm.
he trying to make sure everybody ready. The bench ain't as deep as it used to be. So I'm thinking about all of the stuff, and I wouldn't even say the bench is not as deep as it used to be, but it was just a lot of new stuff. So yeah, I remember I made like 2 or 3 plays that I thought were good plays, and coach questioned them. So I just remember saying like, all right, I'm gonna keep the ball from now on. I'm not passing it no more. If that pass wasn't good enough, I ain't passing it no more. And I said it to Jeff because Jeff tried to come right up to me like, Lodge, just ignore it. I'm like, bro, leave me alone. Because I threw it to you. The second one I threw to Jeff, I'm like, and if that ain't good enough, I ain't throwing it no more. So now everybody kind of like, here go lie. He finna, do pull one. So I just started shooting the shots that I normally would pass, man. And I remember coach was trying to sub me out, and coach might not even recall this, man. I wonder if somebody asked him what he would say, but I remember him like asking me about it, and I wouldn't answer, but he ended up saying Nadir's name, and Nas stood up, and I just kind of walked off onto the court like I'm not going off, I'm not coming out of the game. And then that's when I stopped passing the ball.
Mm.
And yeah, I remember Travis coming up to me and just was like, I was just blacked out, man. I wasn't thinking about it. I promise you, Nate, I was not thinking about it. I didn't think about the score. I didn't think about the situation. I wasn't thinking about the momentum. I wasn't thinking about if we had it going or not. I was just playing. I was just hooping. I was just doing everything that I felt like I could and should do every pass. I wasn't timid, and I just was on go mode, man. And I remember Trav walking up to me and was like, Lodge, you going crazy. And then I looked up at the scoreboard and I had like 20 some points, and I was like, excuse my language. I was like, oh shit. And I didn't know. I had no idea. And then I remember it going into overtime. And as we was walking to the bench, Trav was like, Lodge finna score 40. Lodge, Lodge finna score. He just kept saying it. And then in the overtime, coach, he really didn't say much to us. He kind of gave us the game plan. And I don't want to say he put it in my hands, but he didn't even say, hey, shoot it. He didn't say, he just damn near could have just had some popcorn. Like he was just chilling. Coach was just chilling, like, let me see what
Yeah.
happened type of thing. So that's why I loved it so much. I think the boys just need to go down there and just play relentless, man. Like those dudes don't have nothing to lose either. And at Hilton,
Hmm.
you would say we don't have anything with them being number 2, but they don't have anything to lose. Don't give up big threes. That would be one of the first things I would say. Don't
Okay.
give up big threes, period. Do not give up big. They can make some if they need to, but time and score is important. Don't give up big threes. And then second chances on the offensive glass.
Mm.
No matter what happened, they can only get one shot. If we can do that, we be straight. Like, cause we gonna put them in a situation where, they not making big shots. Obviously, that mean we doing our job defensively. And if they not making those big shots, it's the only shot they getting. And I know coach and the boys are they loose enough to make some shots and make some big plays. So if I gave 2 tips, that's what I would say. No big shots. And a big shot can be a clutch dunk. It can't be a 50-50 ball. It get ripped out and then they end up getting it right under their basket and get a monster dunk. No big shots. They can't get none of that. Nothing. And
Mm.
we'll be fine.
I love that. Okay, so Bill Self has played against a top 5 ranked team 35 times in his career. They're 24-11. I'm sure you had a decent number of those wins. 24-11 against top 5 teams in Bill Self's history at Kansas. That is absolutely mind blowing to me. that you could have that kind of record against teams that are ranked in the top 5 in the country. And you mentioned earlier that he has certain games circled. Did you remember any, like, is there a little extra juice or something when you're playing against somebody that's ranked that high?
Not really ranked that high, because he know that we care about that stuff.
Mm.
You know, so he didn't have to talk us up to play against Duke, Carolina, the number 5 team, the number 4. He know we turned up for that game. I think that he was ready to coach his battle, make sure that his stuff was ready. He was ready for special situations, you know, big shots, you know, defenses and that kind of stuff. But I think that Coach Self got up for the sleepers, honestly, man. That's the games that I think he got up for. I think he got up for the games that were like the games you wouldn't think he's up for. You know, like the Cornells, the VCUs, those kind of games. Those are the games that I think he gets up for. But just because you got a number on the side of your name, I mean, if I know that stuff is fake, I know Coach Self knows it's fake. So
Yeah.
those numbers, they say numbers don't lie, and they usually don't. But when somebody can just put that number there, you know, it's different. So I don't think that's that big of a deal to coach. But he know that house gonna be rocking.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
house gonna be rocking.
Yeah.
I wish I could go up there.
Yeah.
What time the game start?
Boy, that's what time is tip off? Let me make sure I got that straight here because yes, Wednesday night, Jayhawks at Iowa State, of course, on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'll get that out there as well. Game starts at 6:00. So early one.
Yeah, that's early.
Well, Elijah, hey, listen, man, we've been talking to you for an hour, and I can talk to you for another hour because this is great stuff. But I know you got places to be. We got to wrap this thing up. I want to remind everybody, just 4215. That's the gym. And do you guys do evaluations for players, things like that? I saw that on the website. Or are you all set when it comes to that? How does that work?
Yeah, you just reach out on the website and we'll get back to you. Right now, if I'm being honest, it's kind of hectic with the middle of the season, but we get back to you. It's just me and Nat working shop. And we'll check out the kid, look at them, put them through a workout, and say what we have to offer for them, or tell them what we do and don't, you know, have available. So it's just a touch base thing, and we can kind of go from there. So anybody looking to check us out, just4215.com, and we'll get back to you guys as soon as we can.
Hey, Elijah, thanks so much for the time, man. Best of luck with everything going forward. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Have a good one, Nate. Good seeing you.
All right, that's Elijah Johnson here on the Jayhawker podcast.